Why not now? Why not now? Come on. Welcome to the KFS playoff postgame show. A postgame that I am thrilled to do tonight. John got some big time tickets to the ball game. I think he's trying to make it back at some point. But in the meantime, I have the privilege and the honor to follow up. Let's face it, maybe sadly, one of the great Knicks playoff performances that I can remember. I was born in 1992, for those who don't know. I barely remember the 99 Knicks. So there haven't been many high-stakes playoff games for me to draw back on. That performance that we just saw ranks maybe all the way up there. Maybe right at the top. The amount of things that I heard over the course of 2 days after a blowout performance that was so easily explainable. Short rest, injured star, and an injured star that is relied upon more heavily than any star in the league right now. Nobody has to carry the offensive load that Jalen Brunson has to carry night to night. Nobody. And he so clearly wasn't right. And if he's not right, they cannot score enough. And whether he's fully back, if something's still bothering him, there was one jump shot today I thought looked a little bit iffy on that planting on that right foot. But the amount of talking I heard about Nesmith, and even about our own spacing, which we'll get to, which matters. But the idea that Jalen Brunson can't score with less than ideal spacing, when in fact, he's been doing just that this entire season. That Aaron Nesmith is some kind of answer. The amount of words I heard from the broadcast and from the talking heads and from analysts on the Twitter, the amount of stuff I heard when it was so blatantly obvious that the primary reason that they lost that game by 40 points was because they had no offensive engine to rely upon. And without that offensive engine, there is not much there. And lo and behold, he's feeling better 2 days later, at least a full 2 days of rest. Nobody can guard him. Nobody can guard him. And you know that if he's healthy, even close to healthy, he is going to come up big in the biggest moments. He has proven that to us over 2 years now. He will not back down. You cannot slow him down. You cannot stop him. There is no defense he has not seen. There is no defender he has not dealt with. So that's what I wanted to start with, because I had to deal with 2 days of nonsense. He's unguardable. And it wasn't even his best game. He had 44 on 36 shots, took a lot of shots. But the Pacers were trying all sorts of nonsense. They trapped at half court at times. Nesmith's the only guy that at least can contain once in a while. The second it's Nembhard, it's over. I've heard about McConnell from the broadcast. He bullies McConnell. If the Knicks have a healthy Jalen Brunson, they're going to score points. They scored plenty tonight. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot to talk about. Because all that said, it wasn't Jalen Brunson who really set the tone of this game, because the dirty secret about this series so far is that Indiana has, for the most part, 3 out of 4 games been right there with the Knicks on the rebounding battle, or been ahead. 2 games they won in Indiana, they out-rebounded the Knicks. That's not something the Knicks can accept. That's not a way they can win games. We know how reliant they are upon the possession battle. We know they need to win the offensive glass. We know that's how they create extra possessions. That's how they create catch-and-shoot threes. It allows for some supporting offense to the Jalen Brunson show. It's the kickouts and it's the creation off of offensive rebounds. And Isaiah Hartenstein came into this game after apologizing to the fans for the performance in game 4, by the way. And Isaiah Hartenstein said, there is not going to be one shot that goes up that is missed that I will not get a hand on. I think Isaiah Hartenstein channeled his best buddy, Mitchell Robinson, tonight and said, I'll rebound on behalf of the two of us. I think he finished with 12 offensive rebounds, 13 maybe. And that's not including the 2 or 3 where they got called for fouls trying to box him out. He was constant. He was relentless. Absolutely beasting from the opening tip, setting a tone, saying Knicks basketball is back. This is how we play. This is how we win. That was, to me, the tone setting. That was, if I had to pick one thing that shifted this game from the outset, it was Isaiah Hartenstein's rebounding. You could feel it. Knicks were not going to get pushed around tonight. The biggest adjustment that was made from the outside was starting Deuce McBride. I'm man enough to admit it. I doubted it. Deuce has not looked good in this series on either end of the floor. Struggled to shoot it. TJ McConnell was absolutely destroying him night after night after night. And I understood the spacing concerns with Precious. I did a thread on it. You can see there's less space. However, I thought the Knicks got decent shots. I thought with a healthy Brunson, they could overcome it. I wanted to have a big body on Siakam. I doubted it. Later today, I was thinking, you know what? Man, maybe throwing Deuce full court on Halliburton, giving the Pacers a little taste of their own medicine with what they're doing to Brunson. Maybe that was the right switch, but I wasn't positive. Shout out to my boy XJ, who was positive that this was the move. Others have said it as well. And obviously, Tom Thibodeau nailed it. Not only the part of the game that I was convinced by, because McBride pressuring Halliburton full court, denying him the ball on several possessions, therefore forcing Indiana to start their offense late. 13 on the clock, 12 on the clock. That is not how the Pacers want to play, because the more passes and rotations they can force upon you, the more open shots they generate. It's not like the Knicks, where basically Jalen Brunson penetration can always create a shot. Like, they require rotations and passes, and they can put you in the blender. The Knicks have been in that blender for parts of this series. Certainly in Indiana they were. But if the blender takes about 20 seconds, right? And Deuce denying the ball full court on Halliburton and just bothering him because he had gotten so comfortable in the series with the coverages and the rotations of the Knicks. By game 4, he was orchestrating. He was manipulating the floor. And the adjustment of having Deuce there changed the whole outlook. But it wasn't only that. Because, someone will break this down by the time I'm done here, and if not, I'll break it down tomorrow. The action that allowed the Knicks to get off to a wild offensive start, the super efficient offense that they played, was almost all a product of Deuce McBride having Halliburton on him and setting screen after screen after screen for Jalen Brunson. They spammed it over and over and over again, and the Pacers refused to switch it. They refuse. They will not switch Halliburton onto Brunson, but that causes a bunch of chain reactions down the floor, especially with how high up the floor Deuce was setting those screens, and whether it was Brunson then attacking around the corner as Halliburton tried to recover, whether it was Brunson splitting the two defenders as they tried to reattach themselves to their original matchup, whether it was Halliburton being late to get back to Deuce, Brunson hitting Deuce for 3. They could not cover that action. So Deuce McBride made Halliburton work on offense, and he made Halliburton work on defense. The adjustment worked absolutely perfectly. You couldn't have drawn it up any better. Credit to Deuce McBride for hanging with the series. I should never have doubted him because time and time again, he has proven that you cannot take away his confidence. He's going to come out the next game and shoot the basketball. He believes in himself. Tibbs believes in him. 36th pick of the draft. He signed to like $3 million a year for the next 3 years. He just changed the whole series. Just change your second round series from the start of the game. Pivotal game 5. He's the adjustment, and he made it work. I said XJ. Credit to my boy Mensa as well. Those are 2 smart guys, and they were all over this. It was they had no doubt in their mind that was the move. Deuce McBride create some more space for Brunson. You add the element of him pressuring Halliburton full court. Man, maybe it was a no-brainer. Certainly looked like it. So we talked about Brunson, unguardable. We talked about Hartenstein, dominant. We talked about Deuce, the pivot that changed the series. But there are more guys that we need to talk about. How about Alec Burks, everybody? Alec Burks! Alec Burks! Your favorite Hooper's favorite Hooper. We all wrote him off. This man has done it for the Knicks in the playoffs before, and he's doing it again. And I am being serious when I say this. DJ said this. The Knicks were at critical mass with the lost bodies. They were running out of players. You cannot play against the Pacers with 6 guys. They play too fast. They're too hard to guard. You have to cover too much ground. Impossible. And the Pacers, to their credit, and to Rick Carlisle's credit, understood that. And you see the full court pressure for 48 minutes. That's intentional. That is because they believed, rightfully so, that they were the deeper team and that the Knicks could not match that pace with the minutes that they were carrying. And Alec Burks, without this contribution out of nowhere, from the doghouse to the penthouse, without this contribution, I think that gambit would have worked. I don't think the Knicks had the bodies and the stamina to deal with this Pacers team with 6 guys. And Alec Burks from the dead comes back and has been nothing short of great. And it was the shot making. It was the shot making in games 3 and 4. I didn't think the defense was at a very high level. I would say tonight on the boards, defensively, like kind of rounding into shape. It's hard to not play for a couple months and then come back and guard the Indiana Pacers. But like now all of a sudden he seems to be growing into the series and like was up to the challenge, made a bunch of good defensive plays tonight. And on the offensive end, dynamite 3-point shooter. He's been that his whole career. That was going to happen at some point if you got him enough looks. But the decision-making, which was such a concern during the regular season when he came over, he just seems to have calmed down. Maybe it's the playoffs that he knows he can't like do anything stupid, but driving at the right time, passing at the right time, finding Brunson when he needs to find Brunson, just picking his spots. Little floater here and there, mostly 3-point shots, pump fake and attack, keep it simple. He's been a godsend. And like to think that they, who knows what Quentin Grimes could have offered in this series. Caitlin Cooper has said he's one of the 3 best defenders she's ever seen on Tyrese Halliburton, Quentin Grimes. His ability to move laterally to, as Caitlin puts it, when Halliburton rejects, it's almost impossible. He rejects the screen, meaning he goes away from the screen. It's almost impossible to recover to beat him to that spot. Quentin Grimes could do it. He's one of the few guys. If he was healthy enough, he might have contributed to this series. You lost Bogdanovich. You felt like, damn, we got nothing out of this trade. If anything, we lost something. Obviously, you couldn't have predicted the Bogdanovich injury, but here we were. And Alec Burks has already justified it in this playoffs. He's already justified it because he's saved your season with his contribution. And you just have to give him all the credit in the world. It is so difficult. As Stan Van Gundy said on the broadcast today, it is so difficult to not play for a month plus. And this guy's not a young man. Like, to stay ready. And to come out and be thrown into the middle of a super high-paced physical series. And to be able to do that with the effectiveness, the efficiency that Burks has done it, he's back, baby. Alec Burks is back, and we are so happy to have him. Tremendous contribution. Unexpected. I think the last, well, we can talk about each player because everyone had a huge role in this win. I want to get to Precious, though, because he was the guy swapped out. The message was you didn't perform well enough in the starting role, and we need to make a shift. And that could go in a bunch of different ways for a player. And Precious Achiuwa had his best performance. You know, he had a tremendous performance in the second half. I think it was game 4 against Philadelphia. The games kind of run into each other for a Knicks win. Maybe it was game 4, game 5. Sorry, I'm blanking a little bit. That was a huge performance. From the moment he checked into this game, the impact he had on the defensive end especially, because he played a lot of 5, and that allows him to do some different things and be mobile against Miles Turner and run with Isaiah Jackson, switch onto guys, block shots. He was tremendous, but he also still played some 4. The Knicks did play him with Hartenstein, and he did that beautifully. He stayed with Siakam. He stayed with Toppin. He switched onto guards. Timely blocks, and on the offensive glass, he was great as well when he was out there. On offense, again, yes, they ignored him at times. The spacing is not as good, obviously, with him at the 4, Hartenstein in the game. But he made every right play. He found the right slots. When Brunson hit him off of a double, off the slip, he found shooters. He got to the offensive glass. He made the right cuts. He made the right passes. Just he was so in control in this ball game from the moment he checked in. You take a quote unquote benching and you deal with it in the best possible way by just making the ultimate contribution when you check into the game as a bench player. He was a spark plug. He was an energy boost. He was fresh legs. I mean, how good have McConnell and Toppin been in this series? Almost in every single game, they have taken over the game when they've checked in. And you had Burks and Precious as the guys off the bench for the Knicks, and they mostly held them down. For the first time all series, it felt like those guys could not get going. A couple of plays here and there. They're good ball players. They're really good offensive players. For the most part, held in check. So this was the right formula. The energy guys off the bench, they gave you the right energy. They combated that bench mob, that way that Indiana comes in waves in transition. And overall, it's just funny how different the Pacers look when you're scoring and when you're not. Right? The key for your defense is your offense. It's such a misunderstood part of basketball. It's like, what happened to the Knicks defense? Well, they couldn't score. And if you don't score and you don't offensive rebound and you have 2 guys under the basket and Tyrese Halliburton's running with Obi Toppin and Aaron Nesmith flanking him, you're not going to stop that team. But if they're taking it out of the net and you're getting to the free throw line, and when you're missing, you're getting offensive rebounds. And when you're getting offensive rebounds, they have to commit more guys to the boards, which means they're not getting out in transition as much. It changes everything. And the Knicks, because of all the reasons we've discussed, increased spacing, Jalen getting healthy, Deuce McBride setting those screens, getting Halliburton into actions. They just, and every time the Pacers trapped, they don't want to do it, the Pacers, because they know they don't really have the length to contend on the back line when you trap. And they know that even if they get to the rotations and they force a tough contested shot, if they're trapping all the way up court, they do not have the bodies to get defensive rebounds. They don't want to do it. And every time they did it, the Knicks right away hit the slip pass, made a pass out, got an open shot, open 3, open cut. They're so well versed. They're so well trained to deal with that trap that it's not really an option for the Pacers. That allows Jalen Brunson to now play one-on-one. The offense clicked. The ball went in the hoop. The Pacers had to take it out of the net. Their offense is not nearly as potent when they have to take the ball out of the net. And it's just amazing. It's a 70-point swing or something between 2 games. Basketball can be funny that way. Home court, obviously, matters. And when you go on runs and the crowd is behind you, it can get out of hand. We saw that on both ends. We saw it in Indiana. We saw it here in New York. The beauty is the Knicks have at least, well, they might not have any more home games, but they get to decide this series one way or another. Worst case, at home. And they have not lost at home in this series. You ask me right now who I think is going to win Game 6. I think the Knicks are going to win Game 6. I think they found a lot of solutions in this game. I think Jalen Brunson now gets 3 days off. Huge advantage for New York. I don't think OG Anunoby is going to play. That would be amazing. I just doubt it. Maybe they'd push him if it got to a Game 7. But if Jalen Brunson can get even more healthy or stay as healthy as he is right now, 3 days rest, the minutes the Knicks have to play, they get to just rest up. They found a lot of solutions tonight. I don't expect the Knicks to win by 30 or 20 in Indiana. I expect the Pacers to play better. They also will adjust. Rick Carlisle is a great coach. Rick Carlisle has won a championship. We've seen the adjustments he's made throughout the series. So I would expect a punch back. I would expect them to go on real runs in that game. Game 6, but I just think the Knicks have found some solutions here. And a healthy Jalen Brunson it's not an adjustment, but it's the best adjustment you can have to try to close out a series and get to your first conference finals in 25 years. You got 2 chances to do it. You got 2 chances to do it. What a massive, massive win. Finally, because I'm going to pass by Hart and DiVincenzo. To be clear, I'm not really going to pass them by. I'm going to talk about them very briefly. Josh Hart did not require a ton of help to guard Pascal Siakam. That allowed the Knicks to play small. That allowed Deuce McBride to enter the starting lineup. It's not that Siakam didn't score. It's not that Siakam didn't get some buckets over the top. But Josh Hart, for the most part, did a really good job. And it didn't allow Siakam to become an additional pressure point that broke down your defense, forced help, and then allows three-point shooters to come open. Huge part of this game, an essential part of the adjustment. The adjustment was huge, made a huge difference, but it only works if everybody gets in line and can deal with the effects of the adjustment. One of the effects of the adjustment was that Hart has to guard a power forward who's 6'9" and an excellent scorer. Josh Hart is 6'4". And he crushed it. His turnovers drove me nuts, especially in the first half. He's got to chill. He's got to shoot open threes. He was a little hesitant tonight at times early. But at the end of the day, he made just tremendous play after play. Transition buckets. The offensive rebound off the 3 that he missed. That he crashed and got somehow finished a lefty layup as Nesmith was holding the ball. What a play that was. Josh Hart was tremendous. And he's been tremendous this whole playoffs. I said I wasn't going to talk about him, but I can't help myself. He's worth it. He deserves it. He deserves our praise because he has been masterful. And DiVincenzo didn't shoot the ball well, but man, was he good defensively. Deflections, disruptions, the blocked shots. One on Siakam that was crazy. The offensive rebound, put back dunk. Like, he made a bunch of huge plays, provided a lot of fire and energy, obviously got in a couple confrontations, running through screens at full speed, playing DiVincenzo ball. So, like, it's funny. They lost the 35-point explosion from DiVincenzo. They won the game where he shot terribly, but he's given you other things on the floor. Still a huge contribution. I thought the fact that they had him off, again, we've talked about this a million times, DiVincenzo, he's not a great on-ball defender. He did a great job on Tyrese Maxey late in that series. At times, he can do it. But getting him off the primary ball handler, which another effect of the adjustment, is that DiVincenzo's now guarding Nembhard, who's the Pacers' worst shooter in the starting lineup. And it allows him to be disruptive. It allows him to play off-ball, to jump passing lanes, to jump DHOs, to get his hand on the ball. And you saw it. I mean, like, he can be such a nuisance when he's playing that role. So again, another effect of the starting lineup shift. DiVincenzo makes an impact on the defensive end. So I think we talked about everybody, every player, except for, well, he's not a player, but except for Tom Thibodeau. It's a masterclass. It's a masterclass. And a guy, I've criticized him for this, and I would consider myself a quasi-defender of Tom Thibodeau amongst the fan base. I've criticized him for being slow to adjust in playoff series, for being stubborn. And for him to do all of the following things in this one game, a huge starting lineup shift that goes against his instinct to stay large, to stay big, to match up power forward to power forward, right? Like that goes against what he's about. And he did it because he understood the spacing concerns. He understood the defensive side to be faster collectively, to make rotations. When you have more speed on the floor, you can make more rotations. And they need to against the Pacers. So that was obviously, that's the starting point, a huge adjustment. He's brought Alec Burks back into the fold, made an instant impact. I thought there was a clear, concerted effort from the tip. We're going to bombard the Indiana Pacers with screens. This came from the bench. In the backcourt, we're going to have screens. In the front court, we're going to have screens. We're going to have stagger screens. We're going to screen with different guys. If you're going to pressure Jalen Brunson full court, you're going to pay for it. You're going to run into some elbows. Screen after screen after screen. Huge adjustment by Tibbs, executed by the players. Enough is enough. Watching Jalen Brunson dribble all the way up court with a guy in his shorts. No more. He's got to punish those players. You got to make them go. You got to make them hit the floor sometimes. Not dirty, but just setting solid screens with big dudes, big strong dudes to free him up. Made a big difference. That was a smart adjustment. There were a couple of times in the game, if you were paying attention, you saw it right before an inbounds play, specifically when the Pacers like to run through Siakam. All of a sudden, Tibbs flipped the matchup. Josh Hart came off Siakam and guarded either Turner or Obi, depending on who was out there. Isaiah Hartenstein came out to guard the Siakam isolation. That's preparedness. That's understanding what Indiana wants to do out of an inbounds play and taking it away or doing your best to take it away before they can execute. That's preparation. But now it's beyond the preparation. He's making in-game adjustments. You just love to see that. So, to the extent you felt, and I at times have felt, that Tibbs puts one of the best floor raisers that has ever coached. He is going to win you games. He is going to eke out every advantage in the regular season. But in the playoffs, is he a ceiling raiser? Can he make the adjustments in-game, between games? That's been a question throughout his career. I think it's a fair question. He has made tremendous adjustments now in 2 straight series. Against Philly, taking OG off the ball. That was like a huge adjustment that he made. The different ways he's setting up screens for Brunson, like you could just see, he's really thinking this stuff out. So, masterclass from him. Masterclass from Tibbs. The guys, each and every single player tonight was tremendous in their own way, contributed. Like even DiVincenzo, I said, had the worst game of Knicks tonight. I thought made a massive impact on the game. It's a celebration. It's a celebration of a great performance that puts you one win away from the freaking conference finals for the first time in 25 years, a quarter century. Pretty wild, wild stuff.